Interviews on the Tan and J-Man Show are presented by Fraunfelder Dental Clinic. A great family-owned dental clinic offers laser whitening and dentistry along with braces, implants, and your typical teeth cleaning. Go see Dr. Bill Fraunfelder or Dr. DJ Fraunfelder today for all of your dental needs. Like them on Facebook and check out their website, www.stateoftheartsmile.com. We're speaking with senior writer for the Action Network, formerly of ESPN and the Golf Channel, Jason Sobel. Jason, how are you doing this afternoon?
What's up, fellas? Thanks for having me on.
Another busy week in the golf world. We had an exciting tournament in the Memorial over the weekend. Have the FedEx St. Jude coming up. Have the U.S. Open at Shinnecock Hills next week. But first off, I wanted you to tell our listeners a little bit about the Action Network itself.
Yeah, so I started there about 2 months ago, and I've loved it so far. I think that it's sort of the wave of the future and how we are going to look at analyzing sports, analyzing athletes, analyzing games and tournaments over the next few years. I think that we come at it from, it's a gambling standpoint, it's a fantasy standpoint, it's trying to help you make your bets, help you pick your lineups, and do a better job of it. But quite frankly, I tell people, it's just about making you a smarter sports fan. So I don't care if you're not putting any money down on a golf tournament in a given week. I don't care if you're not doing any fantasy or any pools or anything like that. If you're going to watch a golf tournament on a specific weekend and you just want to be smarter about what you're watching and understand it a little better, I hope that our content can help give you more of that understanding. I think it can help you really have more of an inside perspective on what's going on. Not only in golf, I mean, I'm covering golf, but we've got guys covering every single sport. We've got a guy that wrote about the National Spelling Bee and broke it down and analyzed it before it happened last week. So it's pretty cool, the amount of depth and range that we have on our staff right now.
Yeah, that's what my favorite part about this whole Sports Action Network is I am a little bit of a gambler. I like to throw down on anything from golf to women's tennis. And the best part is, like you just said, they go into depth on what's going on. There's always an article written. They tell you why they like this, what's going on about it. And your latest article you just wrote was, who do I like in the U.S. Open? I'll tell you, ... next week. And that was going to be one of my questions today was, who do you like? But now I understand. And you put into perspective, I think about it. And it was, would you place a Super Bowl wager without knowing whether the game would be played on fast turf or soggy grass? Would you bet Game 7 of the World Series without knowing whether the home team is going with this ace or it's number 4? Or and the answer to all is always no. So that's why I like so much about the Sports Action Network. Every writer goes into detail on why they like it, who they like, and just so much interesting facts about every article that it's wrote, whatever the word is, wrote.
Yeah, I mean, look, I can help and I can make some predictions and some picks on the U.S. Open right now, but I guess the main point of that article was, why would you? Why would you make a U.S. Open pick 10 days ahead of time when you don't have to? No one's telling you, unless you're in some sort of pool and you're having a draft this week, which I certainly would understand, there's no reason to go make a bet or go fill out a FanDuel or DraftKings lineup 10 days ahead of time when you've got plenty of time to do it. You've got all these resources. There are so many variables that are going to take place over the next 10 days. What's the point in doing it now? So, yeah, I can sit here and tell you a few players as of right now I really like. Some of those probably won't change by the time we get to next week, but a few of them, I may look at it and say, you know what? I got out to Shinnecock, and boy, the fairways are a lot wider than I would have thought. And all of a sudden, some of these guys who sprayed a little bit off the tee, I actually think they have a pretty good chance that the fairways are wider. Or I might go out there and say, man, you know what? It is fast, it is firm, it's not going to rain all week, it is going to play as firm as it did back in 2004, and we're going to have a really fast golf course. And so I like guys who are traditionally good links players, and I like guys who play the ball on the ground a little bit better. But why would you make that decision 10 days ahead of time? I don't know, unless you absolutely had to, like I said, for a draft or something to that aspect. But I've always thought that you might as well get all the information, get all of the variables down, and then make your decisions afterwards.
And speaking of Shinnecock, last time the U.S. Open was there was in '04 when Goosen beat Phil by just 2 strokes. And I just remember lefty missing 10 to 12 footers, Goosen making 10 to 12 foot par saves all day long. Has the course changed at all since it last hosted the Open in 2004?
I think the USGA is going to be much more careful with their setup this time around. Mike Davis, the executive director of the USGA, during their media day a couple weeks ago, admitted that the last time there, they may have double bogeyed the course setup. It got too fast, it got too firm. What we've noticed about the USGA over the last couple of U.S. Opens is that they've sort of calmed down. They've sort of let the players have an ability to go out there and make some birdies. We saw that at Chambers Bay. Yes, the greens were not great at Chambers Bay, but for the most part, the setup wasn't that penal. It wasn't that brutal. Last year at Erin Hills, I thought Erin Hills was a complete experiment. They didn't want to go overboard, so they played it cautious. And they said, look, let's not have 10 over as a winning score and make this as tough as it can possibly be. And everybody hates it and no one wants to come back here again. Let's let them go out there and shoot some numbers. And that's what happened. And I think if you go back and look at Erin Hills from last year, you say, yeah, okay, nice course. I don't know if they had a PGA championship there. I think it was a pretty good spot. But for U.S. Open, the Shinnecock has a U.S. Open type feel. I think it will, but I'm a little scared off right now. Before getting there, hearing about wider fairways, hearing about maybe a little less rough than in the past. I'm sure the greens are still going to be fast, but they're going to make sure they water them down and they don't lose them like they did in 2004 and they get unplayable. So you never know exactly what's going through the mind of Mike Davis and guys in the USGA, but let's hope at least it plays like the U.S. Open. I mean, trying to hold a golf tournament on a certain course and trying to have a winner shoot a specific number, that's an awfully tough thing to gauge. But you'd like to see something, if not at even par, maybe a couple under par. But you don't want anyone shooting 16 under like Rory did at Congressional a few years ago. But you don't want anyone shooting 10 over par either and having it turned into another master at Wingfoot from back in the day. So hopefully somewhere in the middle is what we'll get next week, and it'll look and feel like a U.S. Open again.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you going to be there for the entire tournament or just a couple days?
Yeah, I'll be there all week next week.
Excellent. Let's go talk about a little bit last week, back to the Memorial. Over in Murfield, over in Ohio. That's one of my favorite courses. I've been to that tournament several times. I did not get the opportunity to go this year, but I want to go back to one of your tweets that you posted, and I'm just going to read it. It was a great win for Bryson DeChambeau, but also a good win for golf in general. Too many cookie cutters at the highest level of the game. Fun to watch players unorthodox in method and style succeed. Elaborate a little bit on that tweet, on why you think it's good for golf and what you mean by the cookie cutters. And why it's just good in general that he won.
We see so many players these days who come out of college, come out of junior golf, and they hit the ball 310, 315 straight down the fairway. They hone their swings while working on a TrackMan. They basically do everything that every other elite golfer does. And look, that's a great road to success. If you are a 15-year-old kid and you're listening to this right now, and you want to go out and copy Adam Scott and have that as your blueprint to getting to the PGA Tour someday, you can get a lot worse than doing something like that. And I think that's a great thing to aspire to. But it's fun to have guys who are different out there. Bryson DeChambeau, of course, plays same length irons. They're all the same length, and it's just very unorthodox. He uses science and physics to help read his putts and strategize his way around the golf course, and it's almost, to an extent, the exact opposite of Bubba Watson, who's also unorthodox, sort of on the other end of the spectrum, which is I just see the ball and I play the shot that I like and I hit it far and I see where it goes and I go hit it again. But that's unorthodox too, because it's just different. I like having different type players out there, and going even further into this, I like having guys who are polarizing, guys who inspire some sort of passion. There were a lot of people, when I was tweeting about Bryson yesterday on Twitter, said, man, I really don't like this kid. I don't like the whole science thing. I don't like his hat. I don't like how slow he plays. Whatever reasons they might have, that's okay. And I told all these people, that's all right. If you like every PGA Tour player out there, it would be really boring to watch on a Sunday because you just sit there and clap for everybody, and you wouldn't really root against anybody. And I'm not wishing for the PGA Tour to turn into professional wrestling anytime soon, but it's good to have guys who you root for and guys who you root against. That's what makes sports great, is you sit there and watch the NBA Finals, and you either want the Cavaliers to win or you want the Warriors to win, and you root for one and you root against the other. And too often in golf, I think what happens is people sit there on a Sunday and Brandt Snedeker hits the shot and you go, man, I really like that guy. I hope he plays well. And then Matt Kuchar hits one and you go, man, that guy seems like a really good guy. I hope he hits a good one here. And then you see Adam Scott and you say, man, I really like him too. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with any of that because they're all really good guys and they're all really good players, except where's the passion in there? Where's the polarization? None of those guys necessarily inspires a different response from the masses. And I like the players who do inspire some sort of passion, who either people really gravitate towards or they gravitate against. That's okay. It's okay to have players who are sort of like the villain in professional wrestling. You say, boy, that's kind of the bad guy. That's the guy I root against. I don't want him to play well. And I hope those guys do go out there and play well and sort of prove everyone wrong. Patrick Reed is another really good example of that. After he won the Masters, a lot of people are saying, what's up with this guy? What's this guy really like? I don't know. I've heard stories about him. I don't think I really like him. You know what? That's okay. You don't have to like him. And I think it's really cool that there's a guy out there who's an elite player and winning major championships that people don't necessarily like because it inspires passion. It makes you root against them. It gives you a sense of, hey, I'm watching a sporting event and I have a rooting interest for and against certain players. I just think that's a good thing for the game.
And while you're talking about players that people gravitate towards, either liking or not liking, got to bring up Tiger Woods. What are your thoughts on his play so far, particularly this past weekend at the Memorial, when he's definitely shown flashes of his greatness of his past, striking the ball well, but his putter just wasn't his friend yesterday?
And that's okay. Look, Tiger uses the word process more than maybe any of his other favorite terms, and I think we tend to almost take it for granted. We tend to sort of shrug it off as another one of his cliches, but it really does mean something. I mean, this whole process thing was, first of all, he had to get healthy enough where he could swing a golf club again, and once he got healthy enough, he had to be able to make a repeatable golf swing, and once he did that, he needs to be able to go out and play a hole and make a par, make a birdie. And then he needs to do that and string them together and make a few. Then he needs to play a whole round, then a couple of rounds in a row. And now he's at the point where he can play full tournaments and play pretty well. And part of this process is that not everything is going to come together all at once all the time. So we've seen him spraying drivers during the course of an entire tournament already this year. We've seen his iron play at certain tournaments be way off with distance control and not really being able to hit them the way he wants to. We've seen his wedge play look sort of circumspect and not the exact wedge play that we've come to know from Tiger Woods. And now we've seen that from his putter as well. I will say this, guys, the bulky putter bothers me less than anything else. I've always thought I have an untrained eye. I am not Brandel Chambly by any means, but just from my naked eye, I think, first of all, the putter is the easiest club in the bag to fix. I think if Tiger was still spraying his driver all over the golf course, that takes longer to figure out than just, hey, let's go make some putts. Secondly, is the fact that he's been doing this for so long. He's made putts already. It's not as if the last 4 months have been filled with missed putts from Tiger Woods. It was one tournament. He didn't putt well. He will tweak it this week. He will work on his technique. He'll work on his tempo. And I've got to think he'll come out to Shinnecock next week and putt much better than he did at Memorial. Quite frankly, it can't get any worse. So he's got a lot of room for improvement, and I think he will improve, and he will improve quickly.
Heading into the U.S. Open this upcoming weekend, he didn't want to pick a winner, but are there any particular players you like their chances heading in?
Sure. And I'll give you some from sort of a betting perspective. I'd say, first of all, I could not believe the board, and I actually just went back and looked at even a few minutes ago before we started the podcast, because number one on the odds makers board was Dustin Johnson. And look, I understand that, and Dustin's obviously a great player. He's won a U.S. Open in the past, and maybe not the greatest of Dustin Johnson's seasons so far, but look, the guy plays well every single week he goes out there. So I understand that. Number 2 was Rory McIlroy, who's been hot and cold, and either really hot or really cold. I get that to an extent. Number 3 is Jordan Spieth on that list. I don't quite understand that as much. He should be dropping a little bit. I can't imagine there are going to be too many big bets on Jordan Spieth the way he's playing, and maybe he has great value because of it, although number 3 on the board just doesn't seem to make sense. And then at number 4, tied with Tiger Woods, is Justin Thomas. And I can't figure that out, because if I'm listing the favorites, if I'm an odds maker and listing favorites, I've got Justin Thomas on the top of that list right now. The guy is never really out of contention. He's in contention every time he plays. He's been the best player in the world over the past year. He's going after his second major in the last 3 because he won the PGA Championship last year. And I think it's a very good course for him. I think he's a good U.S. Open type player. I think he likes tough golf courses. So he's right at the top of my list. If I'm going sort of pick a guy from Tier A in some sort of pool, I'm going with Justin Thomas over any of the other elite guys. If I'm going down a little bit, if I'm going for a Tier B type guy, so to speak, Mark Leishman is the guy who I think he's primed for a really big summer. I think if you look at both Shinnecock and Carnoustie, really tough golf courses where playing the ball on the ground should be an advantage. He's a low ball hitter. I think as long as it doesn't rain, as long as it doesn't get too muddy, as long as it doesn't become target golf, that Mark Leishman should be a really good U.S. Open type player at Shinnecock. And if we want to go down to almost a Tier C, and I don't even know if he belongs in there necessarily, but I was looking at this guy's odds, and I think the last I saw last night after the playoff Memorial was 140-1, which I can't jump on that fast enough. And that's Dan On. After he got in the playoff yesterday, I'm sure some people are looking at him and talking about him a little bit. This guy's already won at Wentworth on the PGA Tour, on the European PGA Tour in his career. This guy is a really, really good player. This guy is a top 15, top 20 type player in the world. He's a former U.S. amateur champion, so obviously plays well on USGA type setup. So I think he's got tremendous value way down there. And like I said, I think it was 140-1.
And I have to ask this. I'm a huge Ricky Fowler fan, so how do you like Fowler's chances to finally get major number 1 under his belt next week at Shinnecock?
Here's my problem with Ricky. I pick Ricky so often that I feel like I'm out of Ricky picks now. I just feel like I've used them all up. And I feel like I can't keep going back to the well because I've been wrong on him so often. I think I picked him to win the Masters 2 months ago, and obviously that didn't happen, but he played really, really well there, and I believe a second-place finish. He was right there at the end. So, it's hard to not like Ricky Fowler on a really tough golf course. I do. I like him a lot. Really, I'm almost just, I don't know even what you said, biased against myself and based on my own past history, in that I pick him so often that I'm shying away from picking him. And as I wrote my Memorial Tournament preview, because I liked him a little bit this past week, I said, Ricky's going to win when I don't pick him. When I jump off Ricky is going to be the week that he finally breaks through. So maybe for Ricky's sake, I'll jump off it for the U.S. Open this week. And hopefully for your sake, you guys jump on, because I think he's going to have a really good week.
Who do you think will be the next first-time major winner?
It's a good question. There's so many potential guys out there right now. And I think that this sort of best player without a major label started when Phil Mickelson was a really good player and was 28, 29, 30 years old and still didn't have a major championship. And so it just got pinned on Phil Mickelson. It was easy to just say, hey, he's the best player without a major, because look at all these PGA Tour wins he has, look at his world ranking, and yet he still doesn't have a major. Well, once he won one, it was sort of easy to go over to a Lee Westwood site or a Colin Montgomery, and he said, those guys are, they're now the most accomplished players without a major. And once those guys started to fade into the twilight of their careers, you easily moved on to Sergio Garcia and said, Sergio's a guy that, for all he's accomplished in the game, should have a major championship already, and he still didn't have one. Now he's got a Masters under his belt. You look at all the players, and it's hard. Jon Rahm, you look at the guys on the top of the world ranking, he's the highest ranked player without a major. Now, I wouldn't say that Jon Rahm is disappointed by any means. So you stick a label on a guy like that and say best player without a major, and you say, it almost sounds like, hey, John Rahm, how come you haven't played better? How come you haven't won one yet? That's not really the case, but you just take the full width of talent that he has, and you'd say that John Rahm's probably number one on that list. Most accomplished without a major right now. Boy, I've got to think about that. Hideki Matsuyama is a guy who is still very young, still has plenty of time to go out there and win one. Ricky Fowler, obviously, he's probably on top of that list as well. A guy who's done a lot in the game, but still has yet to break through in a major championship. So those are the guys. But I don't think it's as clearly defined as it was back when Phil had the label, and even after he won the Masters for the first time, that it kind of moved over to guys like Westwood and Monty.
I got a question going back to the U.S. Open again. Sorry, we're jumping around everywhere. We all have some questions for you, and this might be a silly question, but so you were talking about Dustin being 9-1 odds, Rory 10-1, Jordan 12-1, and then Tiger and JT were 14-1. And I know you don't work for Vegas, you're not a bookmaker, but when they make the odds for these majors, what are they getting them off of? Do you know? Is it who's hot? Is it who's just the top 5 in the world? Why would JT not be number 1, being number 1 in the world right now?
They're looking at, and they usually do a really good job. I will say that first off. I usually look at the list, and it usually looks about right. Now, some of the more popular guys, and Tiger certainly fits this criteria, look, more people are going to bet on Tiger Woods, so the odds are never going to be great value on Tiger Woods. Now, he might go out there and win next week, but Tiger at 14-1 and JT at 14-1 really isn't fair if you think Tiger's going to win. You should be sitting there saying, man, I love Tiger to win. I should be able to get 25-1. I should be able to get 30-1. It's not fair that I'm only getting 14-1 because that's not enough value for me. I want to be able to get more value off of Tiger. They're usually very good at it. The Justin Thomas one, like I said, just jumped out at me because I don't understand it. Quite frankly, I would have bet money that Justin Thomas was number 1 on the odds makers list, and for him to only be number 4 really sort of has me scratch my head. So I don't quite get that one. Tiger I get to an extent just because it's very much like the Dallas Cowboys in football. It's like the New York Yankees in baseball. The popular guys, the popular teams are always going to have lower odds just because you get people who aren't even necessarily gamblers but say, hey, I just want to throw $20 on my guy or my team and see what happens. And I've always thought that a lot of people, once Tiger wins again, a lot of people with winning tickets might not even cash them. They're just going to go frame them and say, hey, here's my $10 ticket on Tiger to win his 15th major. He finally did it, and I'm going to put it up on my living room wall and show everyone that I had faith in Tiger and I knew he was going to win, instead of taking my 14-1 and winning $140. It's going to be worth it for those people just to have that souvenir. So, like I said, I think that Tiger is certainly overvalued. I think Justin Thomas is undervalued. Usually they get these things right. I think this one's a little off.
And I got one more question on Tiger. And you mentioned a little bit earlier, it was everyone wanted to see him just finish a tournament. Finish 18 holes, and then that would be successful. Then it was finish a tournament, that would be successful. So what is considered successful for Tiger now? Is it winning another tournament? Is it winning a major? And is it going to happen this year? If not, will he win another major in the future in your eyes?
I'm going to tell you what Tiger thinks.
Okay.
And what Tiger would say. And that's his progress. And I've talked to a lot of players about sort of building out their goals and what they want to accomplish. And you wouldn't believe how many players don't necessarily have tangible goals of, I want to win 2 times this year. I want to win a major championship. I want to finish in the top 10 6 times. Those aren't necessarily their goals. Their goals are, I want to continue to get better. I want to be putting better in September than I was back in January. I want to be hitting the ball crisper late summer than I was early summer. And so for Tiger, and I tweeted this out yesterday after his round, I said he shot an even round 72 to cap off a week that was encouraging and disappointing and promising and frustrating and above all sort of confusing. But I do believe that this is encouraging. It is promising. I know a lot of people don't necessarily look at Tiger finishing, 25th, 28th by the end of yesterday, I know that people don't look at that necessarily and say, oh, yeah, great week. He's really moving forward. It looks like just from a results table he's moving back. But I know that Tiger himself is looking at it and saying, boy, I hit the ball amazingly this past week. If I only putted, I could have won the golf tournament. And so that's progress. And for him to go from where he was, and remember, I mean, less than a year ago, I mean, we're talking President's Cup in October, he still hadn't hit a golf shot. He didn't know what his future held, didn't know if he'd play it all this year, didn't know what his back would be able to handle. And now here we are 8 months later saying, boy, how come he hasn't won yet? And how come he's not putting together 4 good scores? And when are we going to see Tiger really put it all together? We are way ahead of schedule for any of that. I think Tiger himself, you got him on a little truth serum and asked him what he thought of his performance so far this year, he would probably tell you it was miraculous from where he's been. In fact, he's said as much in press conferences. If you listen to what Tiger has said about himself over the past few months, I think he's actually stunned at how much he's been able to do, how well he's been able to play in his comeback just because of where he was and where he started from.
And going from Tiger to arguably his rival, Phil, lefty, it's well known that he's never won the U.S. Open. How's his chances going to Shinnecock, or is Phil's chances at U.S. Open long and behind him now?
You know, in theory, it should be a good one for Phil. He's obviously had a very good year. Won in Mexico. He's played well at times, played a little poorly at times, been a little up and down. For the most part, it's been a nice year for Phil. And I know that he has that second-place finish from back in 2004. But look, I just don't know that experience and history necessarily travels, and certainly doesn't travel over the course of 14 years. I mean, how often do we look at players and say, boy, here was the leaderboard last year at this golf tournament, we should have a similar leaderboard, and then by the end of the week you say, oh, none of those guys who played well last year played this course well this year. Well, now we're looking over the span of 14 years and trying to extrapolate, well, Phil was good there 14 years ago. Excuse me. He should be there, good there, back in, now that we're in 2018 again, and yet I just don't know that it works that way. And so, again, I want to see the variables. I want to see what the course is playing like. I want to see what the weather is like. Phil has never played his best golf. That 2013 Open Championship win, notwithstanding, he's never played his best golf on linksy-type courses, on courses where you have to play the ball on the ground. And I think Shinnecock could become that. I think that if they don't get much rain, if it plays fast and firm, it's going to almost have the look and feel of an Open Championship course. And if it does, I really think that negates any sort of advantage that Phil has from either playing there before or from coming so close in U.S. Opens in the past. So I don't love him as much as probably other people do. I understand the nostalgic aspect. I understand everyone wanting to see Phil Mickelson get one finally after 6 runner-up finishes at the U.S. Open. I just am a little hesitant to put him on that upper list of guys who I think are going to contend next week.
Yeah, I would like to see, and this might be my biased side, I'd like to see Lefty win. I like lefties. I'm left-handed, so I'd like to see him get his 4th major. And I think it would be good for golf just to, I don't know how many guys have won all 4 majors. What's that number, Jason?
What's that?
How many guys have won all 4 majors?
5.
5. So Phil would be, so he'd be number 6.
Sargent, Hogan, Player, Nicklaus, and Woods.
There you go. So I think it'd be great for him to win. Like you said, I don't know much about the U.S. Open, and we'll find out in a couple of days when more stuff gets released. But we'll see. It'd be good for golf, in my opinion.
And Jason, I really appreciate you joining us. I got one more question to ask you before we let you go here. This guy being a Rochester, Indiana native, I would be, probably wrong if I didn't ask this. Have you ever met, he's now a Web.com tour player, Chris Smith, used to play on PGA Tour, 2003 Buick Open champion?
I've talked to him on the phone before. I'm not sure we've ever really met in person, but I've talked to him on the phone. I was exploring doing a feature story on Chris and his family a few years ago, and we never got a chance to do that. So We spoke about it a few times, and he's a nice guy, and we went back and forth a little bit. But no, I haven't really gotten a chance to meet him at all.
Okay, yeah, I just thought I'd throw that in there, just since he's from where we're all from. So, and one last question while we're talking about Indiana golfers. What are your thoughts about Patrick Rogers?
Yeah, he had a nice week going this past week at the Memorial. Fell off the pace a little bit on the weekend, but I think he's a guy who has a lot of potential. And I think that, and look, I say this without having spoken a word to Patrick Rogers over the past year, and certainly not having talked to him about this subject at all. But Patrick was a really, really good player in his youth, in his junior golf days. And I've got to believe that some of the success of guys like Spieth and Justin Thomas, a guy like Patrick Cantlay now, and all these younger guys who Patrick might have looked at and said, I was just as good as them 6, 7, 8 years ago. We were in college, we were playing junior golf, and we were traveling the country playing AJGA tournaments, and now they've moved up quicker than I have. And sometimes players tend to sort of push it a little too hard, sort of try too hard. So, instead of just letting it happen, they're trying to go after it. I don't know that that's Patrick Rogers at all, but I can certainly see that scenario if indeed it was happening, just because how do you avoid it? How do you avoid looking at guys who are your peers the entire time you're growing up, guys who you're at least just as good at as, if not maybe even a little better at some point, and then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, not because you've done anything wrong, and just because they've done something right, and that sort of becomes more and more and more, they grow that confidence. Doesn't mean they're necessarily better players than Patrick Rogers. It just means they've become more accomplished at a quicker pace in their career. So I wonder if that plays a part into it, but I think he's got a very bright future. I think he's a really talented player, and I think that before long, I don't know that we'll speak about him in the same vein as those other guys, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him maybe make a Ryder Cup team at some point, have a couple seasons where he wins multiple times on the PGA Tour. I think he's that kind of talent.
All right, so very last question for you before you let you go. Dead or alive, who's your dream foursome to play with? Well, I guess you could pick two other ones, because I'm assuming you'll throw me in there, me and you, and then the two other ones.
It's not far off. You know what? I always tell people, I've been around great golfers all the time, and I've been in a million press conferences with Tiger Woods, and I was just talking to Jack Nicklaus the other day. I've been, when he was alive, a lot of time with Arnold Palmer. I don't get starstruck at all. There really aren't any people, even entertainers, actors, musicians. There aren't too many that I look at and go, man, that would be amazing to meet them and go play golf with them. I was just telling someone the other day that of the players right now, and I know a lot of them really well, Rory might be the guy who might be the most fun to play a round of golf with, who really have a good time. You have a couple beers and you just talk about life, hang out. I think Rory might be as much fun as anybody. That said, my dream foursome, give me 3 of my buddies on a fun golf course and a cooler of beer, and we'll go have a great time. That sounds like a dream foursome. I play my dream foursome about 3 days a week every week, so I'm living the life over here.
And you are a member down in Florida at the West Orange Country Club. I got the opportunity to play that course. It's gorgeous, and like you just said, the guys there are great, so that's a good answer. I'll respect that answer.
And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the greatest win that I've seen this year. Wasn't the Masters, wasn't the Players' Championship. It was the member guest at West Orange Country Club where my friend Andrew Katsanis won with somebody else. I forget who his guest was, but he really played really well that week and sort of carried his guest to the championship. It was fun.
Yeah, that's funny. That's really funny. I'll go ahead and give myself that shout out then, because I went down to your course, played it for the first time, and won your member guest. So thank you for having me.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You were awesome, man. We had such a good time. I mean, I tried telling people, like, oh, yeah, member guest. It was 4 days. We had a blast. And, I mean, you can't describe it to someone who wasn't there just because it is so much fun. My buddy Matt came down from Connecticut, and we've been talking about doing this for 6 years. He finally got some time off from work and was able to play in the member guest. And he got in there Wednesday night, and by Thursday afternoon, at one point he walked out of the clubhouse And he looks at me and goes, this place is amazing. He goes, I've been here less than 24 hours, and I just walked out of the clubhouse. 3 guys just like shook my hand, gave me a hug, and they're like, hey man, how you doing? What's going on? And he's like, I have 12 new best friends. This is the coolest place ever. It really is.
It was fun. I enjoyed meeting Matt as well. And like I said, that was our last question. We'll let you go. All the viewers, if you want to hear Jason Sobel this morning, he was on Golick and Wingo ESPN show, and now he's joining the Tan and J-Man show in the evening. You can follow Jason Sobel at Jason Sobel TAN, the Action Network. So Jason Sobel TAN on Twitter. And I don't think you have a Instagram or Snapchat or Facebook or anything. So we'll stick with Twitter.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. You guys do a much better interview than Golf.
Appreciate that.
Make sure you tweet them and let them know that. No.
Thanks again, Jason. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, guys.